Amara Thompson, 6 months pregnant, boarded a first-class flight from Atlanta, her Supreme Court robe tucked away. Flight attendant Karen Wells sneered, "You don't belong here." Amara showed her ticket, but Karen shoved her, sending her crashing into a tray cart. Passengers gasped. Karen smirked, clueless about Amara's power. The intercom crackled. "We're diverting." Amara's eyes blazed, sensing a fight that would shake her future. What war would this spark? Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from. If you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe for more gripping tales. Amara Thompson gripped her belly, the baby's faint kicks grounding her as the plane jolted onto the tarmac in Charlotte, North Carolina, 90 miles from Atlanta. Sweat beaded on her forehead, despite the chilly 60-degree air hissing through the cabin vents. The intercom had announced an emergency diversion minutes after Karen Wells, the flight attendant with a venomous smirk, shoved her into a tray cart. Passengers whispered, their phones already glowing with shaky videos of the incident. But Amara's pulse thundered louder than their murmurs. Her first-class seat, paid for with years of grit as a Supreme Court judge, now felt like a trap. She smoothed her navy blazer, hiding the judicial robe folded in her carry-on, and braced for what came next. The cabin door hissed open, and 2 airport police officers stormed in, their boots thudding like war drums. Officer Dale Bryant, a wiry man with a buzz cut and eyes like chipped flint, zeroed in on her. His partner, a younger officer with a nervous twitch, trailed behind, clutching a notepad. Bryant's voice cut through the cabin, sharp and accusatory. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for disrupting this flight." Amara's breath caught, her hand instinctively shielding her swollen abdomen. The charge was absurd, a twisted lie spun from Karen's malice. She stood, her 5'7" frame steady despite the ache in her lower back, and faced Bryant with the calm she'd honed in courtrooms. "There's been a mistake. I'm the victim here. Check the passenger videos." Her words were measured, but her heart pounded, sensing the weight of something darker. Bryant's lip curled, his gaze raking over her dark skin, her neatly braided hair, her pregnant silhouette. "Videos can be faked," he snapped, stepping closer, his breath sour, with coffee. "You attacked a crew member, that's what I hear." Amara's jaw tightened. Karen, now hovering near the galley with a feigned look of distress, had clearly fed them this story. The other passengers shifted uncomfortably, some lowering their phones, others muttering support, but none dared intervene. The younger officer scribbled notes, avoiding her eyes. Amara reached for her wallet, pulling out her Supreme Court ID, its gold seal glinting under the cabin lights. "I'm Justice Amara Thompson. This is a misunderstanding." She held the ID steady, expecting the officers to back off, their mistake exposed. Bryant glanced at it, then snorted, tossing it back like it was a cheap fake. "Judges don't look like you," he said, his voice low and venomous. The words landed like a slap, raw and unfiltered, stripping away her title, her power, her humanity. Amara's fingers trembled, but she refused to flinch, locking eyes with him. The younger officer hesitated, mumbling, "Maybe we should check," but Bryant silenced him with a glare. "Cuff her," he ordered, pulling out his handcuffs with a metallic clink. The cold steel bit into Amara's wrists as Bryant yanked, her arms behind her back, ignoring her wince as the cuffs pressed against her pregnant frame. Passengers gasped, a few shouting, "That's not right!" But the crowd outside the plane, visible through the window, was less forgiving. A cluster of onlookers drawn by the commotion jeered as Amara was marched down the jetway, their voices a cacophony of slurs and accusations. "Troublemaker," one yelled. "Go back where you came from," another spat. Amara's cheeks burned, not from shame but from fury, her mind racing to piece together the trap closing around her. The airport terminal was a blur of fluorescent lights and echoing shouts, the air thick with the scent of stale pretzels and jet fuel. Bryant shoved her toward a golf cart, its driver a bored security guard who barely glanced at her. The cart sped through the crowd, parting a sea of curious faces, some snapping photos, others turning away. Amara's phone, confiscated by Bryant, vibrated uselessly in his pocket, cutting her off from her lawyer, her allies, her world. At the airport police station, a squat concrete building tucked behind baggage claim. Amara was shoved into a holding cell, its walls stained with graffiti and despair. The fluorescent buzz overhead felt like a drill in her skull. She sat on a metal bench, her hands still cuffed, her belly aching from the day's strain. She closed her eyes, picturing her late husband, a civil rights attorney whose courage had inspired her own, and whispered a promise to their unborn child. "We'll fight this!" Hours crawled by, the cell's chill seeping into her bones. She replayed the incident, Karen's shove, the passengers' videos, Bryant's dismissal. The pieces didn't fit until a new figure appeared at the cell door. A man in a crisp suit, his silver hair slicked back, his smile as cold as the cuffs on her wrists. "Justice Thompson," he said, his voice smooth but laced with menace. "I'm Victor Hargrove, CEO of Sky Pulse Airlines. My sister-in-law Karen sends her regards." Amara's blood ran cold. Hargrove's presence explained everything: the diversion, the arrest, Bryant's boldness. He was no mere executive, he was a puppeteer, his influence woven into the system itself. "You've made a mistake," she said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her. "Those videos will prove what happened." Hargrove chuckled, leaning closer, his cologne sharp and suffocating. "Videos disappear. Stories change. You're in my world now." He turned to Bryant, who stood nearby, smirking like a loyal dog. "Keep her here until I say otherwise." Amara's heart sank, the cuffs suddenly heavier, the cell smaller. She'd expected her title to shield her, to demand respect. But Hargrove's power dwarfed her own, twisting justice into a weapon. The passenger videos, her only hope, were out there. But Hargrove's reach was long, his allies legion. As he walked away, his polished shoes clicking on the linoleum, Amara's mind raced, plotting her next move. She was a judge, a fighter, a mother-to-be, and she'd be damned if she let this man bury her. The cell door clanged shut, but her resolve burned brighter, a flame no jail could snuff out. Amara Thompson stepped out of the Charlotte police station, her wrists still raw from the cuffs, the late afternoon sun scorching at 90 degrees. Her lawyer, Jamal Carter, a lanky man with a shaved head and a knack for outsmarting corrupt cops, had worked miracles to secure her release after 24 grueling hours. Passenger videos, shaky but damning, had flooded social media, showing Karen Wells shoving Amara on that Sky Pulse Airlines flight. Amara's heart lifted as she climbed into Jamal's sedan, the leather seats hot against her thighs. She was free, her Supreme Court title finally carrying weight, and those videos were her shield. Atlanta waited, 90 miles away, where she'd regroup and sue the airline for racial discrimination. But as the sedan hummed along the highway, her phone buzzed with notifications, each one a splinter in her hope. A major news network, Pulsewave, had aired a doctored video, splicing footage, to make Amara look like a raging attacker, lunging at Karen with fists raised. The headline screamed, "Activist Judge Assaults Heroic Flight Attendant." Amara's stomach churned, her baby's kicks faltering as stress tightened her chest. She scrolled X, where racist trolls swarmed, their posts vicious and unrelenting. "Impeach the thug judge," one read. "She's a danger to America," another spat. Her inbox overflowed with hate mail, slurs piling up like debris after a storm. Jamal gripped the wheel, his knuckles whitening, and muttered, "This is Hargrove's doing." Victor Hargrove, the airline CEO who'd taunted her in the cell, had struck again, his influence of venom seeping into the media. Amara's colleagues on the Supreme Court, usually vocal allies, went silent, their texts unanswered, their fear of scandal palpable. She stared out the window, the Georgia pines blurring past, and felt the weight of isolation. Her title, her legacy, her unborn child, all teetered on a knife's edge. Back in Atlanta, Amara rented a modest apartment under a fake name, her own home too exposed after the viral smear. Jamal arranged a press conference outside the federal courthouse, a chance to fight back. Amara dressed in a charcoal suit, her pregnancy barely concealed, and stood before a sea of microphones, the air thick with humidity and tension. Cameras flashed, their lenses glinting like predators' eyes. She spoke with the clarity of a judge, her voice steady despite the ache in her ribs. I am Justice Amara Thompson, a victim of racial profiling and violence. The truth is in those passenger videos, not the lies spread by SkyPulse Airlines. Her words rang out, sharp and unyielding, and for a moment, the crowd hushed, a few reporters nodding. Hope flickered, fragile but real. Maybe the truth could cut through the noise. Then the hecklers struck, a coordinated mob planted by Hargrove's media allies. They surged forward, their faces twisted with rage, shouting slurs that echoed off the courthouse steps. "Liar!" one screamed. "You don't belong on the bench!" another roared. Amara's security detail, 2 ex-cops hired by Jamal, tightened their circle. But the crowd pressed closer, their hatred a living thing. A bottle sailed through the air, missing her head by inches, shattering on the pavement with a sound like gunfire. Amara flinched, her hand flying to her belly, her baby's safety her only thought. The press conference crumbled, reporters scattering, cameras capturing her retreat instead of her defiance. She stumbled into Jamal's car, her breath ragged, her suit damp with sweat. The drive back was silent, the radio spitting out Pulsewave's latest hit piece calling her unhinged. Amara's resolve hardened, but doubt gnawed at her. How could she fight a man who owned the narrative? That night, alone in the apartment, she sat on a creaky couch, the city's neon glow seeping through cracked blinds. Her phone rang, a blocked number. She answered, expecting Jamal, but a distorted voice rasped, "Your kid won't live to see you fall." The line went dead, leaving her frozen, the room's shadows swallowing her courage. Her hand trembled, clutching the phone, her baby's faint kicks a reminder of what was at stake. Hargrove wasn't just after her reputation, he wanted her, broken, her family erased. Amara's eyes burned, not with tears but with fury. She'd faced worse odds, from segregated schools to hostile courtrooms, and she'd never backed down. But this was different, a war on every front, and Hargrove played dirty. She paced the apartment, the hardwood creaking under her bare feet, her mind racing. Those passenger videos were out there, and she had allies, Jamal, maybe others. She needed proof, a way to expose Hargrove's lies before his next move. The threat echoed in her ears, a promise of violence she couldn't ignore. Her baby deserved a future, and she'd tear down Hargrove's empire to give it to her. Hey, if you're raging at how the media twisted Amara's truth, comment 1 below. Ever seen someone's story flip to fit a lie? Hit like if you're rooting for Amara to fight back, and subscribe to catch her next move against Hargrove's dirty tricks. Who's behind that chilling threat, and what's Hargrove planning next? Amara Thompson's heart pounded, the anonymous threat from the night before looping in her mind like a siren. Your kid won't live to see you fall. She sat in her rented Atlanta apartment, the creaky couch sagging under her, the city's pulse thrumming through the thin walls. It was 75 degrees, but a chill clung to her skin, her 6-month pregnant belly heavy with worry. The media smear, orchestrated by Victor Hargrove, had turned her into a pariah, her Supreme Court title mocked on every screen. She needed a plan, a way to expose the airline CEO who'd twisted her life into a lie. Her lawyer, Jamal Carter, had connected her with Lena Brooks, a private investigator with a shaved head and a scar above her left eyebrow, earned from years of digging into Atlanta's underbelly. Lena arrived at dusk, her leather jacket creaking as she spread documents across the coffee table, her voice low and urgent. Hargrove's tied to a far-right media group, Iron Voice. They're the ones pushing that doctored video. Amara leaned forward, her braided hair brushing her shoulders, her eyes scanning emails Lena had hacked. One name stood out, Iron Voice's founder, a man Hargrove funded to smear black leaders. This was the thread to pull, the proof to unravel his empire. Amara's hopes surged, her fingers trembling with the weight of possibility. She could take this to the press, the courts, anywhere but Pulsewave's venomous airwaves. But before she could speak, the apartment's front door rattled, a faint scrape of metal against the lock. Amara froze, her breath catching. The room's shadows stretching like claws. Lena's hand shot to her pocket, pulling a small pistol, her eyes narrowing. The door burst open, splintering wood across the floor, and 3 masked intruders stormed in, their boots pounding the hardwood. Their faces were hidden behind black balaclavas, but their intent was clear. Spray cans hissing as they scrawled racial slurs across the walls, red paint dripping like blood. "Get out, scum!" one growled, his voice muffled but venomous. Amara's heart seized, her hand shielding her belly as she stumbled back, knocking over a lamp. Its crash echoed, glass shards glittering in the dim light. The intruders turned, one swinging a bat that smashed her late husband's judicial awards, the framed certificate shredding under the blow. Amara's chest burned, grief and rage colliding, but survival screamed louder. Lena fired a warning shot, the crack deafening, and the intruders hesitated, their eyes glinting through mask slits. "Go!" Lena hissed, shoving Amara toward the back door. Amara's legs moved on instinct, her bare feet slipping on the hardwood as she reached the kitchen. The back door was a flimsy thing, its lock rusted, but she flung it open, the night air hitting her like a slap. She stumbled into the overgrown garden, thorns snagging her leggings, the scent of damp earth choking her lungs. Behind her, the intruders shouted, their boots crunching as Lena's gunfire bought precious seconds. Amara crawled through the grass, her belly scraping the ground, her pulse a war drum in her ears. She reached the alley, a narrow strip of cracked asphalt lit by a flickering street lamp, and pressed herself against a dumpster, its stench of rotting food turning her stomach. The intruders' shouts faded, Lena's shots driving them off, but Amara's relief was fleeting. She needed help, a phone, anything. Across the alley, a white retiree, Mr. Dawson, stood on his porch, his silver hair glowing under a moth-swarmed bulb. Amara staggered toward him, her voice hoarse. "Please, call the police." Dawson's eyes flicked over her, his mouth tightening into a thin line. "Don't want trouble," he muttered, stepping back, his door slamming shut. Amara's knees buckled, the rejection a fresh wound. Even here in her own city, her skin marked her as an outsider, a threat. She sank against the porch steps, her breath ragged, her baby's kicks faint but steady. Lena emerged from the shadows, her jacket torn, her face grim. "They're gone, but we're not safe." She pulled Amara to her feet, leading her to a beat-up sedan parked 2 blocks away. Inside, Lena's laptop glowed, her fingers flying as she traced the intruder's gear to Hargrove's private security firm, Titan Shield. "Same guys who guard his mansions," Lena said, her voice tight. Amara's jaw clenched, Hargrove's reach suffocating her. She urged Lena to call the police, to report the break-in, the evidence. They drove to a precinct 10 miles away, the city's neon signs blurring past, a mockery of normalcy. At the station, a bored desk sergeant, his badge reading Owens, took their statement, his pen scratching lazily. Amara laid out the evidence, the slurs, the Titan Shield connection, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Owens yawned, tossing the report onto a cluttered desk. "We'll look into it," he said, his tone dripping with apathy. "But don't expect miracles." Amara's blood boiled, the dismissal a mirror of Officer Bryant's sneer in Charlotte. The police weren't just indifferent, they were Hargrove's shield, his influence woven into the city's bones. Lena drove her to a new safe house, a dingy motel 20 miles outside Atlanta, its neon sign buzzing like a trapped fly. Amara collapsed onto a lumpy mattress, the room's mildew stench clinging to her clothes. Her apartment was ruined, her husband's memory defiled, her neighbor's betrayal a fresh scar. Hargrove had escalated from lies to violence, his hatred a blade aimed at her heart. But Amara's mind churned, piecing together Lena's findings. Iron voice, Titan Shield. Hargrove's web was vast, but every web had a weak point. She touched, her belly whispering to her baby, "We're not done." The fight was personal now, and she'd burn Hargrove's world to ash before he touched her family again. Amara Thompson stood in her motel room, the air stale with mildew, her 7-month pregnant belly straining against her blouse. Atlanta's skyline glowed faintly through the window, a cruel reminder of the life Victor Hargrove had stolen. 80 degrees outside, but her skin prickled with dread after the home invasion that left her husband's memory in ruins. Lena Brooks, her private investigator, had linked the attackers to Hargrove's Titan Shield firm, but the police had shrugged off the evidence like dust. Amara's fight needed a new battlefield, and she chose the law, her domain. She filed a lawsuit against Skypulse Airlines, accusing Hargrove of orchestrating racial discrimination, from Karen Wells's shove to the media smear that branded her a thug. Her lawyer, Jamal Carter, worked tirelessly, his eyes bloodshot from late nights poring over case law. The federal courthouse in downtown Atlanta, a marble giant looming 10 stories high, became their arena. Amara walked its polished halls, her heels clicking like a metronome, her charcoal suit tailored to hide her pregnancy's toll. The case drew crowds, reporters buzzing like flies, their cameras catching every bead of sweat on her brow. Inside, the courtroom, the air was cool, 65 degrees, but tension crackled like static. Judge Evelyn Harper, a white woman with silver hair and a reputation for fairness, presided, her gavel a promise of order. Amara sat at the plaintiff's table, her hands folded, her heart a drumbeat of hope. Jamal presented their evidence, passenger videos showing Karen's attack, Lena's hacked emails tying Hargrove to Iron Voice's smear campaign. The jury, a mix of skeptical and sympathetic faces, leaned forward, their notebooks open. Then came the game-changer Tasha Green, a black flight attendant who'd worked for Skypulse for 12 years. Tasha took the stand, her voice steady but her hands trembling, her dark eyes meeting Amara's with a flicker of shared pain. She testified about Hargrove's policies, how he'd ordered staff to profile black passengers, docking pay for those who didn't comply. He called it keeping the brand clean, Tasha said, her words slicing through the room. Amara's chest swelled, a rare smile tugging at her lips. Tasha's testimony was a dagger to Hargrove's heart, proof of systemic racism that could sink his empire. The courtroom buzzed, jurors scribbling furiously, reporters whispering about a landmark case. For the first time in weeks, victory felt close, a light piercing the storm. But Hargrove was no stranger to the shadows. As the session broke for lunch, Amara noticed Judge Harper's aide, a nervous man with a slick comb-over, slip a note to the bailiff. When court resumed, Harper's demeanor shifted, her eyes cold, her voice clipped. Jamal called Tasha back to clarify a point, but Harper interrupted, banging her gavel with a sound like a gunshot. Ms. Green's testimony is stricken, she declared, citing a technicality about improper filing of witness statements. Amara's breath caught, her fingers digging into the table's edge. Jamal protested, his voice rising, but Harper's glare silenced him. Order, counselor, or you're in contempt. The jury shuffled, confused, their trust shaken. Amara's hope crumbled, the room spinning as she realized the fix was in. Hargrove's influence had reached the bench, his wealth a noose around justice. Outside, the courthouse steps erupted in chaos. Protesters, their signs branding Amara a liar, clashed with her supporters, fists flying in the 90-degree heat. Amara's security team hustled her through the mob, her heart pounding. As a brick sailed past, grazing Jamal's shoulder, he grunted, blood seeping through his shirt, but waved off help, his eyes fierce. We're not done, he growled, shoving her into a waiting car. The drive to the motel was a blur, Atlanta's streets a maze of honking horns and flashing lights. Amara's phone buzzed with alerts, her case trending on X, but the narrative had flipped again. Pulsewave's latest hit piece called Tasha's testimony fabricated, painting Amara as a desperate fraud. Back at the motel, Amara collapsed onto the bed, the springs groaning under her weight. Jamal, his arm bandaged, paced the room, his voice tight with fury. Harper's dirty. Hargrove got to her. Amara nodded, her mind racing. She opened her laptop, expecting to review case files, but her screen flashed an error. Access denied. Her files, stored on a secure cloud, had been hacked. Every strategy, every piece of evidence now in Hargrove's hands. Her stomach twisted, her baby's kicks faint under the stress. The courtroom, her sanctuary, had betrayed her, its scales tipped by Hargrove's gold. Tasha's courage, the jury's trust, all erased in a single ruling. Amara's eyes burned, not with defeat but with resolve. Hargrove thought he'd broken her, but he'd only sharpened her edge. She'd find another way, rally allies, expose the corruption eating at the system. Her baby deserved a world where justice wasn't a privilege, and she'd fight until her last breath to build it. But Hargrove's next move was coming, and it would be uglier than anything she'd faced. Amara Thompson slumped on the motel bed, its springs creaking under her 7-month pregnant frame, the Atlanta night pressing against the window like a heavy fog. The air was thick, 80 degrees, the room's cheap fan rattling uselessly. Her lawsuit against Skypulse Airlines had imploded, Judge Harper's corrupt ruling erasing Tasha Green's testimony, and her hacked case files were now Hargrove's playbook. Jamal Carter, her lawyer, nursed a bandaged arm in the corner, his face etched with defiance despite the protester's brick that had bloodied him. The courthouse betrayal stung, but Amara's fire burned hotter. She needed allies, a movement to expose Victor Hargrove's racist empire. She reached out to the Atlanta Justice Coalition, a grassroots group of civil rights activists who'd rallied for her online. Their leader, Simone Reyes, a fiery woman with a shaved head and a voice that could shake walls, met Amara at a diner 15 miles from the motel, its neon sign buzzing in the humid dark. Over greasy coffee and waffles, Simone pledged her network, dozens of organizers ready to amplify Amara's fight. "We'll get Tasha back on the stand," Simone said, her eyes fierce. "Her truth will bury Hargrove." Amara's heart lifted, a fragile hope blooming. Tasha, the black flight attendant who'd exposed Hargrove's profiling policies, was their key. Amara called Tasha, her voice steady despite the knot in her chest, and secured her promise to testify again at a new hearing Jamal was pushing for. Tasha's apartment, 20 miles away in East Atlanta, was set as the pickup spot for a safe escort to the courthouse. Amara felt a surge of momentum, the coalition's energy a lifeline. She and Jamal drove through the city's pulsing streets, the skyline's glow a faint promise of justice. But when they reached Tasha's building, a squat brick complex with flickering hallway lights, the door hung ajar, the lock splintered. Amara's pulse spiked, her hand shielding her belly as Jamal drew a concealed pistol, his eyes scanning the shadows. Inside, the apartment was a wreck, furniture overturned, dishes shattered across the linoleum. Tasha was gone, her phone dead, her purse abandoned on the couch. A crumpled note lay on the coffee table, its scrawl chilling. "Back off, Judge." Amara's knees weakened, the room's stale air choking her. Tasha, her strongest ally, had been taken. Hargrove's claws, sinking deeper. Jamal called Lena Brooks, the private investigator, who arrived in 30 minutes, her leather jacket damp with sweat. Lena's flashlight swept the apartment, landing on a partial boot print, its tread matching Titan Shield's gear from the home invasion. She hacked into a nearby traffic cam, her laptop glowing in the dark, and traced a black van speeding from Tasha's building to a warehouse district 50 miles north. The van's plates linked to Hargrove's security chief, a ex-mercenary named Vance Keller. Amara's blood boiled, Hargrove's audacity a slap to her face. She urged Lena to track Keller, to find Tasha before it was too late. They drove to the warehouse district, a sprawl of rusted metal and broken glass under a moonless sky. But the trail went cold. Keller had fled, Lena's contacts reporting he'd crossed into Mexico, leaving no trace of Tasha. Amara's hope shattered, her hands trembling as she clutched the note, its words a taunt. Back at the motel, the TV flickered with Pulsewave's latest smear, Hargrove's media puppets spinning Tasha's disappearance as proof of Amara's instability. The anchor, a slick-haired man with a predator's smile, sneered, "Justice Thompson's witness vanishes. Coincidence or conspiracy?" Social media erupted, hashtags branding Amara a fraud, a danger, a black woman who'd overstepped her place. The coalition's support wavered, Simone's texts growing cautious, her activists spooked by the kidnapping's shadow. Amara sat on the bed, the motel's peeling wallpaper closing in, her baby's kicks faint under the weight of despair. Hargrove had turned her ally into a ghost, her movement into a whisper. The police predictably refused to investigate, their sergeant citing lack of evidence with a smirk that mirrored Officer Bryant's in Charlotte. Amara's mind raced, piecing together the fragments. Keller's flight meant Hargrove was rattled, his moves desperate but precise. Tasha was alive, she had to be, a bargaining chip to break Amara's spirit. Amara's resolve hardened, her eyes burning with a fury that drowned her fear. She'd lost her home, her reputation, her safety. But she wouldn't lose Tasha. Simone's coalition, Lena's skills, Jamal's grit, they were still hers to wield. Hargrove thought he'd caged her, but she was no prey. She'd storm his empire, expose his crimes, and drag him into the light. If you're gutted by Tasha's kidnapping, comment 1 below. Have you ever seen someone silenced for speaking? Truth? Hit like if you're cheering for Amara to save her ally, and subscribe to see her next strike against Hargrove's lies. What desperate move will Amara risk to find Tasha? Amara Thompson's breath fogged in the Atlanta dawn, the air a crisp 60 degrees, her 7-month pregnant belly heavy under a loose sweater. The motel's flickering neon sign buzzed behind her, a grim reminder of her fugitive life. Tasha. Green's kidnapping had gutted her coalition, the Atlanta Justice Coalition's texts now sparse, their faith shaken by Victor Hargrove's media machine. Pulsewave's lies painted Tasha's disappearance as Amara's fault, branding her a reckless judge who'd lost her grip. Lena Brooks, her private investigator, had hit a dead end chasing Vance Keller, Hargrove's security chief, who'd vanished into Mexico. Amara's lawsuit was in tatters, her files hacked, her ally gone. But surrender wasn't in her blood. She'd faced down racist professors, hostile senators, and now a CEO who thought he owned justice. Hargrove was holding a press conference at SkyPulse Airlines headquarters, a gleaming glass tower 15 miles from her motel, to address the controversy. Amara saw her chance, a public stage to call out his crimes. Jamal Carter, his arm still bandaged from the courthouse clash, tried to talk her down, his voice hoarse from sleepless nights. It's a risk, Amara. He'll be ready. But her eyes blazed, her resolve a steel rod. I'm done hiding. She slipped into a tailored blazer, her braided hair pulled tight, and drove with Jamal to the headquarters, the city's pulse. Pounding in her ears, the press conference was a circus. Reporters packed shoulder to shoulder in a marble atrium, cameras flashing like lightning. Hargrove stood at a podium, his silver hair gleaming, his suit crisp, his smile a predator's mask. He spoke of safety and accountability, deflecting questions about Karen Wells's shove. Amara pushed through the crowd, her heart a war drum, her baby's kicks urging her on. Security guards eyed her, but her Supreme Court ID flashed, briefly bought her a moment. She reached the front, her voice cutting through the chatter like a blade. Victor Hargrove, you kidnapped Tasha Green to silence her. You orchestrated racial profiling, smeared my name, and attacked my home. The world deserves the truth. The room froze, cameras swiveling, reporters gasping. Amara's words poured out, detailing Hargrove's iron voice ties, Titan Shield's violence, Tasha's testimony about his racist policies. Her voice shook with fury, but her facts were ironclad, each one a spark igniting the crowd. X lit up, her speech streaming. Live hashtags like Justice for Amara trending in minutes. For a fleeting moment she felt the tide turn, the public's eyes opening, her truth piercing Hargrove's lies. The reporters leaned in, some nodding, others typing furiously. Hope surged, a rare warmth in her chest. She'd done it. Exposed. Him on his own turf. But Hargrove was a snake, coiled and ready. He raised a hand, his smile unwavering, and pulled a document from his jacket, its pages crisp and official-looking. Justice Thompson speaks of truth, he said, his voice smooth as venom. But this affidavit, signed by Tasha Green, proves she was bribed to lie about SkyPulse. The crowd gasped, murmurs rippling like a storm. Amara's stomach dropped, her eyes scanning the paper from afar. Its text a blur, but its impact a sledgehammer. The document was a forgery. It had to be. But Hargrove's delivery was flawless, his allies in the crowd amplifying the lie. A man in a red cap shouted, "She's a fraud!" Others joined, their voices a venomous chorus, slurs cutting through the air. "Liar!" "Criminal!" Bottles flew, one shattering at Amara's feet, its glass spraying like shrapnel. Her security detail, 2 ex-cops Jamal had hired, closed ranks, but the mob surged, their hatred a tidal wave. Amara's pulse raced, her hand shielding her belly as she backed toward an exit. The atrium's marble floor gleamed, slick with spilled water, her heels slipping as she moved. Hargrove's voice boomed, "We seek justice, not chaos." But his eyes glinted, savoring her retreat. Jamal grabbed her arm, pulling her through a side door into a parking garage, its concrete walls echoing with the mob's roar. The air was stale, 90 degrees, the garage a maze of shadows and exhaust. Amara's breath hitched, her baby's kicks faltering under the stress. They reached her car, a rented sedan tucked in a corner, but footsteps echoed behind them, heavy and deliberate. Hargrove's security team, 3 men in dark suits, emerged from the gloom, their faces hard, one holding a small bag. "You're done, Judge," the leader snarled, tossing the bag into her car's open window. "That's enough cocaine to lock you up for life." Amara's blood ran cold, the frame-up a masterstroke. The men advanced, their fists clenched, but Jamal fired a warning shot from his pistol, the crack bouncing off the walls. The men froze, then retreated, their laughter echoing as sirens wailed in the distance. Amara slid into the driver's seat, her hands shaking, and peeled out of the garage, the tires screeching on the ramp. The city blurred past, Atlanta's lights a mocking kaleidoscope. Her speech had gone viral, but Hargrove's forgery had poisoned it, turning her triumph into a trap. The drugs in her car were a ticking bomb, a lie that could end her freedom. She glanced at Jamal, his face grim, his bandage stained with fresh blood. "We need to ditch this car," he said, his voice tight. Amara nodded, her mind racing. Hargrove had turned her truth into a weapon, her allies into skeptics, her life into a manhunt. But she was still breathing, still fighting. She'd find Tasha, expose the forgery, and burn Hargrove's lies to the ground. Her baby deserved a world where truth mattered, and she'd claw her way to it, no matter the cost. Amara Thompson crouched in a rundown motel 20 miles outside Atlanta, the room's peeling wallpaper curling like dead skin. The air was thick, 85 degrees, a broken air conditioner dripping onto the stained carpet. Her 7-month, pregnant belly ached, her baby's kicks faint under the strain of her fugitive life. Pulse Waves broadcast blared her face across every screen, labeling her a drug trafficker after Victor Hargrove's men planted cocaine in her car during the parking garage ambush. Her viral speech at his press conference, accusing him of kidnapping Tasha Green, had backfired, twisted by his forged document into proof of her corruption. X swarmed with hate, calling for her impeachment, her Supreme Court seat now a target. Amara's braided hair clung to her sweat-damp neck, her eyes hollow from sleepless nights. Jamal Carter, her lawyer, had ditched the rigged car in a junkyard, his bandaged arm a constant reminder of the courthouse clash. He'd smuggled her to this motel, a crumbling hideout off a forgotten highway, its neon sign flickering like a dying star. Lena Brooks, the private investigator, slipped in at midnight, her leather jacket slick with rain from a sudden storm. She carried a burner phone and a bag of takeout, the greasy scent of fries cutting through the room's mildew. "Keller's back," Lena whispered, her scar glinting under the fluorescent light. Vance Keller, Hargrove's security chief, had fled to Mexico after kidnapping Tasha. But Lena's hacked cameras caught him at a warehouse 30 miles north, holding Tasha captive. Amara's heart leaped, a spark of hope piercing her despair. Tasha's testimony could clear her name, expose Hargrove's racist policies, and end this nightmare. She gripped the burner phone, its plastic warm in her palm, and urged Lena to pinpoint the warehouse's location. "We get Tasha. We get justice," Amara said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Lena nodded, her laptop glowing. As she pulled up satellite maps, the warehouse a gray speck in a sea of rust. Amara planned to sneak out at dawn, a 90-minute drive to save her ally, but fate moved faster. At 2 in the morning, the motel's parking lot erupted in red and blue flashes, police cruisers screeching to a halt. Amara's pulse spiked, her baby's kicks faltering as boots pounded the gravel outside. "They found us," Jamal hissed, peering through the blinds, his pistol drawn. Lena shoved the laptop into a bag, her eyes darting to the window. Hargrove tipped them. "Move." Amara's legs trembled, but her mind sharpened, survival instinct drowning fear. The motel's back exit led to a fire escape, its rusted metal groaning under her weight. She climbed down, her belly scraping the rails, her breath ragged in the humid night. Sirens wailed, closer now, their scream a knife in her ears. A spotlight swept the lot, catching her shadow as she hit the ground, her sneakers sinking into mud. Bullets grazed the wall above, a cop shouting, "Stop or we shoot!" Amara ducked behind a dumpster, its stench of rotting garbage choking her, and sprinted toward a wooded patch 50 yards away. Her heart pounded, her baby's faint kicks urging her on. Jamal and Lena flanked her, their footsteps crunching leaves. As they vanished into the trees, the police's shouts fading behind. Amara's lungs burned, her body screaming for rest, but she pushed forward, the forest's darkness swallowing them. They reached a clearing, Lena's sedan hidden under branches and piled in, the engine roaring to life. The drive was silent, Atlanta's lights a distant glow, the weight of their escape crushing. Amara clutched her belly, her baby's heartbeat, faltering under the stress, a doctor's warning from weeks ago echoing. Stress could harm the pregnancy. Her throat tightened, guilt and fury colliding. Hargrove wasn't just after her freedom, he wanted her child's future. Back at a new safe house, a boarded-up cabin 40 miles from the motel, Lena pulled up news alerts on her phone. The raid had made headlines, PulseWave claiming Amara fled a drug bust. Her Supreme Court seat now under formal challenge by a Senate committee, Hargrove's allies pulling strings. Amara's chest ached, her legacy unraveling, her name a slur on every tongue. She sat on a creaky cot, the cabin's damp wood smelling of rot, and stared at Lena's map of the warehouse. Tasha was there, alive, a chance to turn the tide. But the police were hunting, their net tightening, and Hargrove's reach seemed endless. Amara's eyes burned, not with tears but with defiance. She'd lost her home, her reputation, her safety. But Tasha was her line in the sand. She'd infiltrate that warehouse, free her ally, and expose Hargrove's crimes, even if it cost her everything. Her baby deserved a mother who fought, and she'd tear through hell to be that woman. The dawn loomed, a faint pink on the horizon, and with it, a rescue that could save or doom her. Amara Thompson's breath steamed in the pre-dawn chill, the air a sharp 55 degrees as she crouched in a ditch 30 miles north of Atlanta. Her 8-month pregnant belly pressed against her thighs, her baby's kicks faint but fierce, mirroring her resolve. The warehouse loomed ahead, a rusted hulk squatting in a sea of cracked asphalt, its windows black as oil. Lena Brooks, her private investigator, had traced Tasha Green here, kidnapped by Victor Hargrove's security chief, Vance Keller. The motel raid had nearly ended Amara, police bullets grazing the walls as she fled, her Supreme Court seat now a Senate target, her name smeared as a drug trafficker. PulseWave's lies choked the airwaves, but Tasha's testimony could shatter Hargrove's empire, clear Amara's name, and save her legacy. Lena, her scar glinting under a headlamp, handed Amara a flashlight, her voice a low growl. "Keller's got 3 guards armed. We go quiet." Jamal Carter, his bandaged arm stiff, stayed in the sedan, ready to signal if cops approached. Amara's heart pounded, her sneakers crunching gravel as she followed Lena to a side entrance, its lock rusted but intact. Lena picked it in seconds, the door creaking open to a cavern of shadows, the air thick with oil and damp concrete. Forklifts loomed like silent beasts, crates stacked high, their labels faded. Amara's flashlight swept the floor, landing on a metal door at the far end, its padlock gleaming. Lena nodded, and they moved. Amara's belly slowing her but her will unyielding. The door's lock gave way under Lena's tools, revealing a small room, its walls stained with mold. Tasha sat bound to a chair, her wrists raw, her face bruised, her eyes wide with fear. "Amara?" she whispered, her voice cracking. Amara's chest tightened, relief flooding her as she cut Tasha's ropes with a pocket knife, the fibers snapping like brittle bones. Tasha stumbled to her feet, tears streaking, her cheeks, and Amara pulled her close, whispering, "You're safe now." The moment felt like a victory, Tasha's warmth a lifeline after weeks of loss. Lena urged them toward a ventilation shaft, a narrow escape route mapped from blueprints. They crawled through, the metal cold against Amara's skin, her belly, scraping the tight walls, her breath shallow in the stale air. Tasha followed, her movement sluggish but determined, Lena leading with her pistol drawn. They emerged in a deserted lot, the warehouse's silhouette fading behind, the sky a bruised purple. Amara's hope soared, Tasha's testimony within reach, a chance to turn the tide. But the lot was too quiet, the air heavy with the trap's promise. Tasha's eyes darted, her hands trembling not from fear, but something darker. Before Amara could react, Tasha bolted, shouting, "They're here!" Headlights flared, blinding, as two black SUVs screeched into the lot, Hargrove's, men spilling out, their rifles glinting. Amara's blood froze, betrayal slicing through her. Tasha, coerced by threats to her family, had led them into an ambush, her loyalty shattered by Hargrove's cruelty. Lena fired, her shots cracking the dawn, dropping one guard as Amara dove. Behind a rusted barrel, her belly pressed to the ground, her baby's kicks faltering. The men advanced, their boots crunching, one shouting, "And the judge!" Amara's mind raced, her eyes locking on her car, parked 50 yards away. Lena's voice crackled through the burner phone in her pocket, a lifeline from the chaos. "Bomb in the car, red wire, cut it!" Amara sprinted, her lungs burning, bullets kicking up dirt around her. She reached the sedan, its door ajar, a blinking device taped under the dashboard. Her hands shook, sweat stinging her eyes, as she fumbled for the red wire, Lena's instructions a steady chant. The wire snapped, the blinking stopped, and Amara slid into the driver's seat, the engine roaring. Lena dove in, blood seeping from a graze on her arm, but Tasha was gone, vanished into the SUV's dust. Her betrayal a wound deeper than any bullet. Amara floored the gas, the car lurching onto a back road, the warehouse shrinking in the rear view. Sirens wailed in the distance, Hargrove's influence pulling the law tighter around her. Her chest heaved, grief and rage colliding. Tasha's face burned into her mind. The rescue had been a trap, Hargrove's men one step ahead, their bomb a death sentence she'd barely escaped. Her baby's heartbeat steadied, a faint pulse of hope, but the cost was crushing. Amara's allies were dwindling, her name a curse, her freedom a thread. She glanced at Lena, her face grim, and knew the fight wasn't over. Hargrove thought he'd broken her, but betrayal only sharpened her edge. She'd find another way, a new spark to ignite his downfall, even if it meant facing the fire alone. If you're reeling from Tasha's betrayal, comment 1 below. Ever trusted someone only to be stabbed in the back? Hit like if you're rooting for Amara to rise above this gut punch, and subscribe to catch her next move against Hargrove's deadly game. What secret weapon will Amara uncover to fight back? Amara Thompson huddled in a boarded-up cabin 40 miles from Atlanta, the air heavy with damp wood and a stifling 80 degrees. Her 8-month pregnant belly throbbed, her baby's kicks sluggish after the warehouse ambush that nearly killed her. Tasha Green's betrayal, coerced by Victor Hargrove's threats, had led Amara into a trap. Hargrove's men planting a bomb in her car, diffused only by Lena Brooks' quick instructions. The police hunt had tightened. Pulsewave branding, her a fugitive drug trafficker, her Supreme Court seat teetering under Senate scrutiny. Amara's braided hair was frayed, her eyes sunken, but her resolve burned like a forge. Lena, her private investigator, nursed a grazed arm in the cabin's corner, her laptop casting a blue glow. Jamal Carter, his bandaged arm stiff from the courthouse clash, paced the creaky floor, his voice tight. "We're out of moves, Amara. Tasha's gone. The coalition's spooked." But Amara refused to break, her mind churning for a lifeline. She remembered Marcus Lee, a hacker she'd met years ago during a cybercrime case, a wiry black man with a knack for cracking corporate secrets. Marcus lived off the grid, 30 miles away in a trailer park, his distrust of the system matching her own. Amara called him on a burner phone, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. "Marcus, I need you to dig into Hargrove. Emails, deals, anything to nail him." Marcus agreed, his tone wary but curious, promising results in hours. Amara's hope flickered, a faint spark in the dark. She and Lena drove through the night, the cabin's isolation no longer safe, the police's net closing. The trailer park was a maze of rusted metal and sagging awnings, the air thick with grilled meat and gasoline. Marcus greeted them at his trailer, its walls lined with monitors, his dreadlocks tied back, his eyes sharp behind thick glasses. "Hargrove's dirty," he said, his fingers flying over a keyboard. His screens lit up with encrypted emails, hacked from Skypulse's servers, detailing Hargrove's orders to profile black passengers, fund Iron Voice's smears, and hire Titan Shield for special jobs like Tasha's kidnapping. One email chilled Amara's blood, Hargrove instructing Vance Keller to neutralize the judge permanently. Marcus also found a hidden video, a security feed from the warehouse showing Tasha's coerced confession, her tears proving Hargrove's threats to her family. Amara's heart soared, her hands trembling as she gripped the trailer's edge. This was it, the smoking gun to expose Hargrove, clear her name, and save Tasha. The evidence could force a new hearing, sway the Senate, and end the manhunt, but Hargrove's shadow moved faster. As Marcus burned the files to a USB drive, his monitors flickered, a virus crawling through his system. "He's on to us," Marcus hissed, yanking cables to slow the attack. Amara's stomach dropped, her baby's kicks faltering as the trailer's lights dimmed. Lena's phone buzzed with an alert, a police scanner reporting a tip on a fugitive judge in the area, coordinates matching the trailer park. Hargrove had hacked Marcus's network, tracing their location in minutes. Amara's pulse raced, the cabin's safety a distant memory. Lena shoved the USB into Amara's pocket, her voice urgent. "Run, now!" They bolted from the trailer, the night air aslap at 70 degrees, the park's gravel crunching under their feet. Sirens wailed, closer than ever, red and blue, lights piercing the dark 500 yards away. Amara's legs burned, her belly slowing her as she ducked behind a rusted RV, its paint peeling like old scars. Lena and Marcus split off, drawing the cops' attention, their shouts fading into the chaos. Amara slipped into a drainage ditch, its muddy water soaking her jeans, the stench of algae choking her lungs. She clutched the USB, its plastic warm, against her palm, her only weapon now. The police swept the park, their flashlights slicing the night, one beam grazing her shoulder as she pressed deeper into the mud. Her heart pounded, her baby's faint kicks a desperate plea. She crawled, 50 yards emerging in a wooded lot, the sirens fading but the threat alive. Amara stumbled to a gas station 10 miles away, its neon buzz a faint comfort, and used a payphone to call Jamal, who'd escaped the raid. He picked her up in a borrowed truck, his face grim, his bandage stained with fresh blood. "The Senate's voting tomorrow," he said, his voice low. "Hargrove's pushing to strip your seat." Amara's chest tightened, the USB her last hope. But Hargrove's reach was a noose. Pulsewave's latest broadcast, looping on the gas station's TV, showed her mugshot, the anchor sneering about new evidence of her crimes. The hacked files, Tasha's video, they could change everything, but time was bleeding out. Amara's eyes burned, not with despair but with fury. Hargrove had turned her into prey, but she was a hunter, a judge, a mother. She'd deliver Marcus's evidence to the right hands, force the world to see Hargrove's truth, and save her child's future. The truck rumbled toward Atlanta, the city's glow a distant fire, and Amara braced for the next blow, knowing Hargrove's wrath was far from spent. Amara Thompson gripped the USB drive in her pocket, its edges biting into her palm as she hid in the back of a borrowed truck, 40 miles from Atlanta. The night air was a muggy 70 degrees, her 8-month pregnant belly straining against her sweat-soaked shirt, her baby's kicks faint but defiant. The hacker Marcus Lee's evidence, Hargrove's emails ordering racial profiling, and Tasha Green's coerced confession video could end Victor Hargrove's reign and clear her name. But the police manhunt, fueled by Hargrove's tip after Marcus's system was hacked, had driven her deeper underground. Pulsewave's lies branded her a drug trafficker, and the Senate's vote to strip her Supreme Court seat loomed tomorrow. Hargrove's allies twisting the knife. Jamal Carter, his bandaged arm stiff from weeks of battles, drove through back roads, the truck's engine rumbling like a distant storm. Lena Brooks, her private investigator, sat shotgun, her grazed arm bandaged, her eyes scanning for cop cars. Amara's heart pounded, the USB her only weapon, but delivering it was a gauntlet. Jamal had a contact, Senator Clara Hayes, a black woman with a reputation for challenging corruption, who could present the evidence at the Senate hearing. Amara's hope flickered, a fragile flame in the dark. They reached a safe house at dawn, a crumbling farmhouse 50 miles from the city, its walls sagging under ivy, the air thick with hay and dust. Amara collapsed onto a cot, her body aching, her baby's faint kicks a reminder of the stakes. She emailed Clara from a burner laptop, attaching the files, her fingers trembling as she typed. Clara responded within hours, her message curt but promising. "I'll present this at the hearing. Stay hidden." Amara's chest loosened, the first real chance to strike back since Tasha's betrayal. The hearing was set for noon, broadcast live from Washington, D.C. 200 miles away, but Clara would stream the evidence in Atlanta's Federal Building, a public viewing to sway opinion. Amara, Lena, and Jamal drove to a community center, 10 miles from the safe house, its basement packed with activists from the Atlanta Justice Coalition, their faith in Amara battered but not broken. The room buzzed, 60 degrees from an overworked AC, the screen glowing with the Senate chamber. Clara took the floor, her voice steady, her gray suit sharp against the chamber's oak. She held up a tablet, Marcus's files loaded, and began. Victor Hargrove orchestrated a campaign of racial injustice against Justice Thompson. The room cheered, Amara's allies clapping, their eyes bright with hope. Clara played Tasha's video, her tears and coerced words exposing Hargrove's threats, followed by his emails ordering Skypulse's profiling. The activists gasped, their phones live streaming, X erupting with Uriah Hargrove exposed. Amara's heart soared, her baby's kicks stronger, victory within reach. The evidence was undeniable, the Senate shifting, reporters scrambling. For a moment, she believed the tide had turned, her name cleared, her seat secure. But Hargrove's venom was never spent. As Clara spoke, a Senate aide, a young man with slick hair and Hargrove's smirk, slipped a folder to Senator Richard Vance, a Hargrove ally with a voice like gravel. Vance stood, interrupting Clara, his face flushed with triumph. "New evidence has surfaced," he boomed, holding up a flash drive. "Justice Thompson falsified these files to frame an innocent CEO." The screen switched to a forged video, Amara's voice deep-faked with chilling precision, bragging about planting lies to ruin Hargrove. The activists froze, their cheers dying, their eyes turning to Amara with doubt. Her stomach plummeted, her baby's kicks faltering as the room spun. The deepfake was a masterstroke. Hargrove's tech allies crafting a lie so real it fooled even her allies. The coalition's leader, Simone Reyes, whispered, "Is this true?" Amara's throat tightened, betrayal a fresh wound. Outside, a mob gathered, Hargrove's paid agitators chanting, "Lock her up." Their signs bore her face, defaced with slurs, the air 90 degrees and thick with hate. Amara's security, 2 ex-cops, hustled her to the basement's back exit, but the mob blocked it. Bottles smashing against the walls, their shards glittering like knives. Lena fired a warning shot, the cracks scattering the crowd, but a brick struck Jamal's leg, blood soaking his jeans. He limped, shoving Amara into an alley, the community center's brick walls echoing with shouts. They reached the truck, its engine coughing to life, but the mob's roar followed, a siren's wail joining the chaos. Amara's hands shook, the USB useless now, the deepfake rewriting her truth. The hearing collapsed, Clara's pleas drowned by Vance's accusations, the Senate delaying the vote but leaning toward impeachment. Pulse waves broadcast, looping on a nearby diner's TV, showed the deepfake, the anchor sneering. Thompson's lies unravel. Amara's chest burned, her baby's faint kicks a desperate plea. Hargrove had turned her evidence into poison, her allies into skeptics, her hope into ash. The truck sped into the night, Atlanta's lights a fading blur, Jamal's blood staining the seat. Lena's phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. "Hargrove's server has more. I'm digging." Amara's eyes narrowed, fury drowning fear. The deepfake was a blow, but Marcus's lead was a lifeline. Hargrove thought he'd won, but she'd survived worse, from slurs to bombs. Her baby deserved a mother who fought, and she'd claw through this lie to expose him. The road stretched, dark, the next fight waiting, and Amara braced for a war she couldn't lose. Amara Thompson's hands trembled as she clutched the USB drive. its weight a lifeline in the borrowed truck speeding through Atlanta's outskirts. The night air a humid 80 degrees. Her 8-month pregnant belly ached. Her baby's kicks faint under the strain of a relentless manhunt. The Senate hearing had been a disaster. Senator Clara Hayes' presentation of Marcus Lee's hacked evidence, Hargrove's emails, and Tasha Green's coerced video, sabotaged by a deepfake framing Amara as a liar. The Atlanta Justice Coalition's trust wavered, their basement viewing erupting into a mob attack, Jamal Carter's leg bloodied by a brick. Pulsewave's lies dominated, her Supreme Court seat hanging by a thread, Victor Hargrove's allies pushing for impeachment. Marcus's text, promising more dirt on Hargrove's server, was her only hope. But the hacker was offline, his trailer, park-rated. Jamal drove, his jaw tight, his bandage soaked, while Lena Brooks scanned for police tails, her grazed arm tense. Amara's eyes burned, fury outpacing fear. Hargrove had turned her truth into a weapon, but she'd find a way to wield it. They headed to a new safe house, a community center in East Atlanta, 20 miles away, where Simone Reyes, the coalition's leader, had rallied a small but loyal group. The center was a squat brick building, its windows boarded, its lot littered with faded flyers. Inside, 30 activists gathered, their faces a mix of hope and doubt. The air 65 degrees from a rattling AC. Simone, her shaved head gleaming, hugged Amara, her voice fierce. "We're with you, but we need proof." Amara nodded, plugging the USB into a laptop, projecting Marcus's files onto a cracked wall. The emails detailing Hargrove's racial profiling and Titan Shield's violence drew gasps, Tasha's tearful video silencing the room. "This is our fight," Amara said, her voice steady despite her baby's faltering kicks. The activists cheered, their phones live-streaming, X buzzing with cheers Hargrove exposed. Simone organized a march to the federal courthouse, a public stand to demand a new hearing. Amara's heart lifted, the coalition's fire rekindling her own, a chance to sway the Senate and end the manhunt. The march was set for dawn, 10 miles away, a bold move to reclaim her truth. But Hargrove's wrath was a storm waiting to break. As the activists planned, the center's lights flickered, a low hum cutting through the chatter. Lena's phone buzzed with a scanner alert. Suspected terrorist activity at East Atlanta Community Center. Amara's blood froze, her baby's kick stalling as the room tensed. Hargrove had weaponized the system again, labeling their peaceful march a threat. Before they could react, armored SWAT vans roared into the lot, their sirens a deafening wail, floodlights blinding through the boarded windows. The activists scrambled, some grabbing phones, others barricading the door. But the SWAT team breached, battering rams splintering wood. Tear gas canisters hissed, their acrid cloud choking the air, burning Amara's eyes. She coughed, her belly pressed to the floor, Simone dragging her toward a back exit. "Hargrove's framing us," Simone shouted, her voice raw. Outside, the lot was a war zone, 90 degrees and thick with smoke. SWAT officers zip-tying activists, their batons swinging. Amara stumbled into an alley, her sneakers slipping on wet pavement, her lungs searing. Lena and Jamal flanked her, guiding her to a drainage pipe 50 yards away, its mouth hidden by weeds. They crawled through, the pipe's slime coating Amara's clothes, her baby's faint kicks a desperate pulse. The center burned behind them, flames licking the sky, Hargrove's paid arsonists ensuring its destruction. Pulsewave's chopper circled, broadcasting live, the anchor sneering. Radical judge leads terrorist riot. Amara's chest caved, her allies arrested, her safe haven ash. They emerged in a wooded lot, Lena's truck hidden under tarps and sped away, the city's glow a mocking horizon. Jamal's leg bled freely, his face pale, but he gripped the wheel, his voice grim. "They're saying you planned the fire." Amara's hands shook, the USB still in her pocket but its power dimmed. The coalition was shattered, Simone in cuffs, the march a trap. Hargrove had turned her stand into a massacre, his influence torching her last refuge. Lena's phone pinged, a message from Marcus, miraculously alive. "Found Hargrove's financials. He's bribing senators." Amara's eyes narrowed, a spark igniting. The SWAT raid was a blow, but Marcus's lead was a blade. Hargrove's bribes could sway the Senate, but exposing them could shift the vote. Her baby deserved a mother who fought, and she'd deliver Marcus's new evidence to Clara, even if it meant walking into the lion's den. The truck rattled toward Atlanta, the courthouse looming, and Amara braced for a final stand, knowing Hargrove's next move would be her deadliest yet. Amara Thompson's heart thundered as the truck rattled toward Atlanta's federal courthouse. The dawn sky a bruised purple, the air a sticky 75 degrees. Her 8-month pregnant belly ached, her baby's kicks faint but fierce, a mirror of her resolve. The USB drive, clutching Marcus Lee's evidence of Victor Hargrove's bribes to senators, was her last weapon. The SWAT raid had razed the community center. Her Atlanta Justice Coalition shattered. Simone Reyes jailed. Jamal Carter's leg bleeding through his bandage. Pulsewave's lies branded her a terrorist. Her Supreme Court seat on the Senate's chopping block. Lena Brooks, her private investigator, drove, her grazed arm tense, her eyes scanning for police. Amara's braided hair clung to her sweat-damp neck, her body screaming for rest. But surrender was no option. Senator Clara Hayes had agreed to meet her before the Senate vote, a final chance to expose Hargrove. The courthouse loomed, its marble, steps gleaming, a crowd of reporters buzzing 10 yards away. Amara slipped in through a service entrance, her sneakers silent on the tile, Lena and Jamal guarding her flanks. Clara waited in a dim office, her gray suit crisp, her face grim. Amara handed her the USB, her voice steady. Hargrove's bribing. Senators, this proves it. Clara nodded, her tablet loading the files, but a knock interrupted, urgent and sharp. A Senate aide burst in, his eyes wide. They've moved the vote. It's now. Amara's stomach dropped, her baby's kicks, faltering as time bled out. Clara rushed to the chamber, Amara following, her heart a war drum. The Senate floor was a storm, senators shouting, cameras rolling live. Clara took the podium, her voice cutting through. Hargrove's corruption taints this vote. She played, Marcus's files, emails flashing on screens, revealing bribes to Senator Vance and others. The chamber gasped, X exploding with Theodore Hargrove falls. Amara's hope surged, her truth finally piercing the lies. But Hargrove's shadow struck. Vance, his face red, produced a forged email, claiming Amara had blackmailed Clara. The crowd turned, reporters whispering, senators doubting. Amara's knees buckled, but then Tasha Green burst through the doors, free from Hargrove's clutches, her face bruised but defiant. "He forced me to lie!" she shouted, her testimony streaming live, exposing Hargrove's kidnapping and threats. The chamber froze, the tide turning. Amara seized the moment, stepping forward, her voice a blade. "I'm Justice Thompson, and I'll fight for truth until my last breath." The senators shifted, Vance shrinking, Hargrove's empire cracking. Police stormed in, not for Amara, but for Vance, cuffs clicking as Clara's evidence held. Hargrove's arrest followed, his smug face on every screen, his bribes exposed. Amara's seat was saved, her name cleared, but the cost was heavy. As she left the courthouse, her water broke, the baby coming amid chaos. In the hospital, her daughter was born, tiny but strong, named Hope. Amara held her, tears falling, the fight not over but transformed. Hargrove's fall was a start, but the system's roots ran deep and she'd keep cutting. Her baby's eyes, bright and fierce, promised a future worth fighting for, a new war dawning. This story of Amara Thompson, a pregnant Supreme Court judge battling systemic racism, teaches us resilience in the face of injustice. Amara's journey, from a flight attendant's racist shove to Victor Hargrove's relentless attacks, shows how power structures weaponize bias to silence black voices. Her home invasion, false arrests, and media smears reveal the depth of institutional racism, yet her courage, outsmarting traps like a car bomb and deepfake, proves one woman's truth can shake empires. Tasha Green's coerced betrayal and eventual redemption highlight the personal toll of systemic pressure, but also the power of solidarity. Amara's final stand, saving her seat and exposing Hargrove, underscores that justice demands unrelenting fight. even when odds seem impossible. Her daughter Hope, born amid chaos, symbolizes a future worth battling for, a reminder that change begins with those who refuse to bow. This tale urges us to question narratives, challenge corruption, and amplify marginalized voices. Systemic racism thrives in silence, but Amara's story shows speaking out, despite fear, sparks revolution. We learn to persist, to find allies, like Lena and Marcus, and to hold fast to truth no matter the cost. What injustice have you seen that needs a voice? Comment below, hit like if Amara's fight inspires you, and subscribe to fuel the fight for justice. Thank you for joining this journey, and here's to building a world where hope rises. Stay fierce, stay true.